Hey gang, when it comes to fixed blade knives, I think it is cool to have a small one or a companion one, a medium one or like a camp knife perhaps, general utility, and then a large one like a survival knife. This knife on the table here falls in that middle medium category. This is the Lionsteel T5. It's a pretty new knife from Lionsteel and it is making a very, very good first impression with me for sure. So this knife here, may as well jump straight into it, costs the same amount, if not a little less than this knife here. Had a rough time lately, the S1. I still think it's a great everyday, not everyday carry, but, common carry camp utility knife. Sure, it's not done so well for old mate survival, Lily, in super hard use testing and whatnot, but I still think it's great. However, the price of these has shot up. $330 you're looking in Australia now. That's up about 35 to 40% from this time last year, and definitely up a fair degree from when I got mine for $229 a year and a bit ago. So gonna have to start looking at things like this that cost a little less now. $250 for this Lionsteel knife, which has some very good things going for it. Let's open it up and have a see, shall we? So let's start by looking at the blade. The blade is a 5-inch, very sort of broad blade in a nice sort of classic drop point shape with a bit more of a modern jazzy swedge there. This blade is made of a D2 variant called Nylox. Nylox is somewhat of a modified D2. According to the charts, it's both better in stainlessness and in edge retention, so there you go. But I guess similar enough for pretty much every knife resource I can find to still call it a modified D2. So not a powder steel, but probably one of the better ingot steels going. Yet to be steel tested, will happen soon. So you get a very thick blade. It's in about the S1 area of thickness, so about your 4mm thickness. Let's get the S1 out and show you. So this is the Lionsteel, so we get the S1 out there. S1 might have a little, maybe a 0.5 millimeter on it or something similar, but in terms of general stock all the way to the tip, they've both got their various sort of swedgy, odd shapes to the spines, but really stock thickness very, very similar. So you're getting a big piece of steel that will probably hold an edge a fair bit longer than the VG10, if it's anything like the D2 I've used before anyway. And then moving down towards the handle. The handle, you get something very nice indeed. So the full tang is shown there, obviously, through to its little pommel or glass breaker or nut cracker you got there. You can see the rivets hold the handles onto the tang. The tang isn't completely as wide as the handle because this is not a slab-handled knife, as you see when I turn the knife this way. So what they've done here is they've 3D machined a big block of micarta. They've machined the channel out the middle, and this has let them have sort of much less sort of hand-to-steel contact. So the main sort of finger part of your hand is just micarta, is what that is in contact with. And then the back still, because I think people like the idea of seeing the tang of the knife, to know it is full tang, you can still see it. So it is a really, really well done handle that feels really impressive, looks really impressive. The micarta has great grip. It's got really cool machining all down it. As you can see there, the various layers going this way, and then you've got the ridges going this direction here. Very, very well done with 3 sort of prominent bits of practical jimping there that grab the thumb just enough, and then extending from the handle is a nice thumb scallop, I guess you would call it, on the back of the blade. So that is one handsome looking knife, if I do say so myself. As the person who has just spent money on a knife, I suppose you have that initial period of really, really liking something. Well, usually you do anyway, unless it's disappointing, and this is certainly not disappointing. So the blade here, I've noticed from my initial use, really, really good at slicing and also heavy cutting. It's thick, yet it is also tall, so it can be both rather thin behind the edge for a heavy fixed blade knife, of course, relatively speaking. It's no Spyderco Manix 2, that's for sure, but relatively thin behind the edge, but also strong enough to have a good bulky shoulder here to make sure the blade theoretically will do some more abusive type tasks, perhaps. Yes, the battening and the splitting and the prying and all that sort of business should be no problem for this knife. It is definitely sturdy. Feels sturdy in hand. There is a certain weight to it that is absent from the S1. The S1 is a fair bit more of a nimble feeling knife in hand, probably just due to the slightly thinner handle and just slightly less material making up the blade there. So this knife has both an excellent handle and a very, very nice blade. So it is already looking to be a real contender for one of the better medium-sized camp / perhaps light survival knives. Now, when you get the sheath out is when it all sort of comes into place. This is a really cool sheath. So look at this sheath here. It's Lionsteel, Maniago, Italy, which is cool. It is handmade in Italy, which is very cool. And then what they've done is they've got what is a fairly traditional looking hunting style sheath. They've gone ahead and added, there's your traditional belt loop here, which kind of drops it down quite nicely. So the handle is at belt width rather than the handle being up here poking you in your side. So it's got that thing going, but they've also gone and put leather moly compatibility on, which I think is really, really cool. So they've gone ahead and you can unbutton that and you can feed it back through the straps, and you can fix it upside down or right side up or whatever it is to your moly hunting vest. So it is truly a very, very versatile carrying knife. And even when you're just carrying it standardly, slide it in there, button that shut. Sorry for nudging the tripod. I'm getting used to the camera thing being, my video camera's out, so I'm using my mobile phone on a tripod like a noob. So I'm just getting used to that, doing that again, first time in years. So, but anyway, sorry about that. Anyway, now you've got a really, really good retention system of this nice sort of neck securing around the handle, and then this strap securing around this leather neck. So very, very cool indeed. The leather is super quality, nice double stitching all the way around, burnished edges here, really, really fine craftsmanship. That would be a $60 sheath buying it separately on its own. It's a really, really good one. So then when you do compare it to what the S1 gives you for what is now a whole lot more money in Australia, I'm not a detractor of this sheath, but you're starting to see how people are getting a bit shirty at what Fallkniven are offering for their prices, aren't you? Because what was a great knife at $230 for me is now no longer particularly competitive when Lionsteel, an also great company, are making knives in Italy using more materials, more advanced machining processes, more of everything really, using leather, using Nylox steel, which will probably hold an edge longer than the laminated VG10. Yes, likely not as stainless, but different at the very least, better perhaps even. You can see why people are starting to get a little bit bothered by Fallkniven's price increase. So there you go. I think this knife, when I saw it for 250 Australian dollars, yes, still a lot, still very much like a great deal of money to spend on a knife, especially when you can get amazing stuff from Schrade for $70 in 1095 steel, of course. But when I sort of really had to think, you know what, I've been a defender of the S1, a user of the S1 for a long time. Let's see what the competition are doing. And I must say, when I take this knife out, hold it in my hand, cut some things with it, get cutting on my, various, what are we thinking, onions, get cutting on the onions, get cutting on your pears, get cutting on your carrots, cutting on your cardboard, cutting on your cheeses, cutting on your hose pipe. When you start getting all those things cut and using it in hand for a little bit of time, there's going to be some problems for Fallkniven if they don't start upping what they're selling for the same price range as this bad boy here. Anyway, you guys, I hope this has been exhilarating for you. Sorry the video has been some time away from the last one. I've just got to figure out my new video camera setup, whatever I go with that. Thank you for your continued viewership, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.